Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. This is actually a bit of a milestone, Whiskey Review 200 on this channel, 200 of individual whiskey reviews. So we thought we'd bring you Lagavulin 20-year-old 2020 for my 200th review. Just two guys and opinions. Dustin, what do you know about this one?
You know, I know very little. It's this year's Feis Ile, of course.
This year's Feis Ile, there wasn't the event, so they sold the bottles aftermarket, which I heard was a shipping disaster from most people. But there's a will, there's a way. And I believe I was the first person in North America to get my hands on this bottle.
You very well might have been.
That's not the truth. I'm kidding. I got it pretty quickly, though.
You're in the top 10, probably.
I got it probably 3 weeks ago, roughly.
Okay.
And people, I was posting on one of my online groups, and people have said in Scotland, like, man, I ordered right off the IGO's website, and I don't even have mine. Where are you located? I'm like, well, I'm here in the States, and, Columbus, Ohio. And he's just like, how's that possible? I'm 37 miles from the distribution. So there were some issues as far as shipping. But to get back to this 2020 bottling of Lagavulin 20, it comes in a whopping 54% ABV. I was really excited about this year's release, Dustin, because the cask maturation is XPX and Oloroso seasoned Hogsheads. And buddy, heavily sherried Lagavulin is always a good sign for me.
Yeah, although I'm already hearing the word seasoned.
Yeah, I know.
That always makes me think not
thin.
heavily sherried.
Makes me think thin.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I hear seasoned, I think not as good as normal.
Yeah. I think, oh, I'll get a kiss of sherry.
I give you a remembrance.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yep.
All right, so I believe this is natural color. Again, Lagavulin, 20-year-old, cask strength, the 2020 Feis Ile bottling that I wanted to bring for my 200th whiskey review. I was going to save this for all. I usually like to get into a whiskey for a longer period of time, but I've had this again for 3 weeks, and I really dug into it.
Yep.
And I've had some drams where I let them sit here for 45 minutes before I even, considered, taking a drink, and I think I have a good grasp on my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, we had a pour of this maybe about an hour ago, I guess,
Sure.
getting warmed up. It's the first pour of the day. And I'll tell you what, this is a different whiskey right now than it was an hour ago. I am picking up so much more fruit on this one than earlier. It is actually really showing me that sherry character.
Yeah, it's a lot more sherry than most of the other special releases. 19, it was 19, 18, it was an 18-year-old, 17, it was a 16-year-old. But this particular one comes off the most heavily sherried of all of them. Now, it's rumored that the new whiskey manager, or the new whiskey malt master, Colin, was aiming to make this better than the 2015 24-year-old. If that's the case, came slightly short.
Yeah, we'll say slightly for now.
But it is one of the better releases from then until now. So going 16 forward, especially considering it's more heavily sherried, right away it's coming off a little bit more positive.
I will say this is probably the most heavily sherried of the 20 or more year old ones. Some of those 16s that you've given me, I think, are a little more sherried.
Yeah, well, they're sure different flavors. I mean, the Moscatel finished a few of those.
The Moscatel to me is
cask
much more of a wine cask influence. Anyway, Mike, I am getting obviously a lot of that sherry, which I didn't get earlier. I am still getting that heavy iodine that we talked about.
Heavy iodine.
And, at first I was thinking like carpenter glue and some other types of things, some putties and things like that. Now, the more I think about it, the more I'm going iodine and PX. And they're doing weird things depending on what time I go into this.
Yeah, when I first cracked this bottle, I got a similar smoke to the normal 16-year-old 43% ABV. And then that subsided fairly quickly after about my first dram. After that, it did get more iodine rich. But again, with a little bit of time in the glass, I do get like a really nice peach note that I get in most Lagavulins coming out of this. But it's all just drenched in that PX sherry.
Yeah, I don't get any smoke. The only peat note I'm getting on here is iodine. And that's interesting because another comment that we've made in the past was that some of the heaviest peat forward Lagavulins we've had are like the 24-year-old. I think we had maybe the 19 or one of the 18s. One of those was a pretty heavy peat.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason as far as the level of smoke, the level of peat, the ABV when it comes to these special.
I think so many people come in, they're like, oh, I need young peat because that's the only way I'm going to get that super peated. And I'm like, no.
Actually, that 24 is probably the most peated one I've ever even tried.
I think it's got more of a peat bite than the 12 or the 8.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if you like the new make spirit, that's part of what you associate with peat. No, that's gone. But, I mean...
No, this is old spicy peat. And I guess the spiciness of it is what's different. With this one, Initially I kind of agreed with you. It kind of came off a little alcohol forward on the nose, but really I think it's an incredibly spicy version of Lagavulin that I really am not used to.
Yeah.
What are you picking up with the palate?
So going in, boom, PX just walloping me. Then I'm getting hit with spice, lots and lots of spice. I want to say, it's more like black pepper. It's not a white pepper, it's black. And then I'm getting in the finish, I'm getting that peach, and it's already coming out, and it's very distinct peach.
Yeah, Lagavulin peach is a little bit richer in this one than it is in some of the other ones, but
more vanilla.
Yeah, it's incredibly aggressive on the palate. And again, for my first drink, I kind of attribute that to alcohol, but it's not that. It's just a really, really intense spice. It wouldn't shock me. Again, this is a guess. It wouldn't shock me if some of these casks were actually French oak casks, because they come off a little spicier because sometimes they're a little bit more porous.
That's a good idea. I hadn't even thought of that.
I mean, I'm guessing.
European oak tends to be spicier. French oak is a type of European oak that just tends to be the spiciest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean a lot of that spice in this one.
I wouldn't be shocked if this is almost all European oak of some sort, because you're right.
Oh yeah.
Although I will say, I get kind of mid-palate right before I swallow. I'm starting to get a lot more vanilla where it's making me think of a first fill bourbon cask. I don't know if there's a lot of it. I'm just getting a little, just there for about 5 seconds, then it's gone.
To me, there is a bit of vanilla on the nose, but on the palate, man, it's hard to get past like that sticky PX, like liquid date.
Yeah, see, I get all that up front, and then when it gets like to the back, not the back of my tongue, in the middle of my tongue, I get oak and vanilla.
An incredible finish, long finish too. I mean, it's still just biting on the sides.
Yeah, and I'm starting now on the sides. I'm really thinking my cheeks for some reason today are really picking up.
Yeah, they're almost numb.
And they're picking up a lot of this really nice. It's a toasted oak. It's not charred. It's not heavy oak. It's just a toasted oak. It's nothing intense, and it's really adding a nice. Just making the finish really pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they did a high char on this one when they rejuvenated the cask. So I sometimes think rejuvenated is essentially planing it down and then kind of recharring it and then putting, sherry seasoning in it for a certain amount of time. And if that's the case, yeah, I think they probably put a higher char level on that. I'm getting that.
Yeah, or just a super heavy toast.
Yeah, or that too. But again, I'm almost thinking that maybe the extra spicy note on this is kind of, drifting into other areas where it just might be one of the spiciest Lagavulins I've ever tried.
Yeah.
Maybe wrong.
But as much as you say it's one of the spiciest, I know was it the Jazz Fest or one that we really weren't too big a fan of?
Yeah, the Jazz Fest 2000.
That one was spicier than this. The difference is this one is well balanced with that PX up front. The spice isn't kicking you in the butt. It's just coming right along with you, and it's like, oh yeah, the spice is really nice, but it's everywhere and it's intense.
Well, I agree with balance, but I just think everything's amped up. I think it's heavy spice. I think it's heavy iodine.
It's heavy sherry.
Yeah, it's heavy sherry. It's a big ABV at 54%. I mean, I think every flavor is turned up to an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
That's why we don't notice it that much. And good.
I was gonna say, what's really cool is I think we've had some Lagavulins that are pushing almost 60% from these special releases. Mm-hmm. This one at 54%, I get really no alcohol bite up front, but I get the creaminess and the mouthfeel of a high ABV Lagavulin, which is, that's what you want. That's perfect.
Yeah, really, you mentioned it earlier. Initially on the smell and on the taste, I don't necessarily get a 20-plus-year-old whiskey. Mm-hmm. I know this is right on the border at 20, at least the youngest whiskeys are, but the mouthfeel is definitely an old whiskey, in my opinion. It's definitely there. It's mouth coating. We just had an older whiskey, a 37-year-old Linkwood before, and as far as the mouthfeel and linger, it stacks up nice.
I'd say, this is 85-95% range of the other one.
I agree.
And the only difference really is it's hard for me to really give a fair assessment because this is really spicy.
It is. So we had a few drops of water, actually a decent little bottle of water, and I got to tell you, the fruitiness does come out a little bit more. So now the peach is way more prominent, and then that nice fig date note from the sherry cask, it's right there too.
Now you're actually making me think again now if I got that vanilla note before or after you added water. You may have added water when I got that note.
Yeah, I definitely get a little bit of vanilla now, but I think a lot of it is just you mentioned it, so then I was kind of went digging for it. It's not as strong as it is in some of the other ones, is what I'm saying.
No. And it's like I said, it's only one real small spot in the palate that I get it, which is good because that tells me this whiskey kind of changes as it goes through your mouth. You're getting kind of different things as you go, which is really what you want on these higher end, super premium, super aged whiskeys. Yeah, although this is probably not a super aged whiskey, 20 years.
For peated whiskey, it's getting up there. But yeah, you want something that transitions. If you're going to pay the extra money, you want something that transitions nice and is not so straightforward, which is kind of Knock with the Arabic 19. It's just, for that thing, it just doesn't transition enough.
It's a great whiskey, but it's a one-trick pony.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, why this still does the job, it still comes back to, value for the money. Now, this is something they made, I think, 6,000 bottles of. I think this is bottle 3126. But again, this one, as they do every year, keep going up in price. So, I think Diageo was selling for roughly like $340 US, plus shipping and all that, if you could get them that first day.
$340, okay. I thought they were lower.
No, every year it keeps going up. So, when you get his retailers, you're talking a $400 bottle. Now, is this a $400 bottle? Probably not.
No, it's coming up well short of that. If you told me I was thinking it was going to be 270, 280 plus shipping, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, it's a good whiskey. A lot of things I like. I love the distillery. I love cask strength. It has a good age on it. But again, I mean, I could buy two or three $200 whiskeys that gave me a similar experience. It's the same knock with the Arabic 19. It's a good whiskey for $180.
Yeah. Again, I think $250 on this one is kind of where I would be. I'm tapping out, and I only want one.
Sure. 200,
I might buy more.
As you know, I mean, you've had many of my Lagavulin specialty bottlings. This is one of the better ones since 2016, but that doesn't mean it's one of the better ones I've had, if that makes any sense. No. But there have been some average whiskeys coming out lately.
This is definitely not an average whiskey.
Sure, it's the better of the average whiskey.
Yes.
The king of the average.
One more time here before I can get my score fully set here.
I'm already done. I'm just going to call it a straight 90 out of 100. I was thinking 89 at first, but it's a solid 90. It's cask strength, it's Lagavulin, it's smoke, it's peat. It's got some nice flavors. It's just not, wow. It's not, man, you got to try Lagavulin 20. Now, when I got Lagavulin 24, I said, you have to try Lagavulin 24.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not saying, man, you got to try this. But if you like Lagavulin, it's good.
I got an alcohol kick there on this last one. So I was 88 before we went into this, and I, like you, went up a point, so I'm at 89.
Yeah, it's a solid whiskey, probably overpriced. Yeah. But if you're a fan of Lagavulin like I am, I'm going to pick up a couple bottles.
If you were a Lagavulin fan, buy it. I think it's right there. But I don't know if I'd buy two unless you're a really big fan or you're collecting them.
Either way.
I don't know who else would do that.
Sometimes happens. Anyway, we want to thank you for once again joining for another whiskey review. And until next time, Dustin, what do we wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
See you next time.